All right, folks, we got a lot of things going on in the world, and of course, a lot of exciting conversation. I've got Sasha to start with me, and also Rick Rosner. We just had the show that was featuring Kim and her Epstein files redacted, and all along those lines, I'm actually going to switch to the other computer, and all along those lines, I know Rick is with me, Sasha, you're with me, and everything like that. Oops. So hold on a second. Computer does do what I didn't want it to do. Yeah.
Rosie froze. Hello.
Gotta love technology.
Okay.
Technology is so wonderful.
All right. I noticed when I went to get a drink that right now they're having congressional hearings into ICE. Will this lead to any changes? Unlikely. Congress hasn't accomplished anything in years, really,
Hmm.
except rubber stamp Trump's stuff. And the first chance we'll get for Congress to become less impotent will probably be starting in next January, freaking 11 months from now, if the Dems win control of the House.
Yeah, and that's a big if is they'll win control. Right now, it's looking like they might gain some control, and definitely there's a lot of things going on with Epstein, going on with ICE investigations, going on with a number of other things. One of the things I didn't get to mention to you, Sasha, but I'd love to hear your thoughts around this, is that apparently there's an issue around climate and its impact in Russia as well. So I did see that in Siberia there is like a deepening crater or something like that. So they're already facing a lot of problems with the whole notion of the Russian war. And I also saw where they are some people from Kenya that are upset that they are trying to recruit Kenyan nationals to fight in that war and everything like that. So Kenya is actually having some conversations with Russia, basically asking them to stop trying to recruit their nationals and all along those lines. I think they said they had like 200 nationals and everything. But I just wanted your thoughts around this as the one that is definitely pro-Ukrainian and rightfully so and everything like that, but trying to figure out how this is going to impact them because if they're having issues both in terms of recruiting people from other countries and also in Siberia, which we know is the cold part of Russia, that there is like a widening crater and everything like this. How is all of these issues going to impact them? And did Canada win the women's hockey?
Well, the life expectancy of the people who are fighting Ukraine front line is maximum 10 days.
Hmm.
So most likely they will be killed much earlier than 10 days, but 10 days is maximum. So instead of paying Russians, they're paying lately 2 million rubles. So it's like $200, something like this, or 2,000. Wait a sec, what is it? Yeah, maybe $2,000, right? So if they can recruit people in Africa and paying them less than that, maybe twice as less, maybe even less money, then it's pretty good deal for Russians. And if people in Africa, I'm pretty sure they don't understand what is their chances to survive. Or they don't care, when their family is getting, say, a couple $1,000, let's assume that. That's not so bad. It's not so bad deal. And plus, they believe that there is chances somehow they will survive. So that's an ideal situation. They survive and they're getting a couple $1,000, but I'm not strong believer that that's the case. frankly. Actually, a very interesting thing happened just yesterday. Russian uh, soldiers, they used a pipeline which was not functional, just a pipeline long enough. So they were using pipelines so to get into Ukrainian positions and then fight there. But Ukrainians detected what they were doing and they ambushed them, and 22 people, all of them were being killed in less than 2 minutes. It's quite spectacular. It was kind of funny. So I'm pretty sure that some of these 22 people were probably recruits who got some money for that, didn't survive. Well, that's life, tough luck.
Mhm.
What
I
can
know
I
we
say?
were just talking about the Ukrainian, I mean, not Ukrainian, but the Epstein situation on the new special that we have. And apparently, Kana says that there are 6 men that are likely incriminated in the Epstein files on the House floor. So that was reported earlier today. And Rick, it looks like the Democratic governors are pledging to boycott the White House events after that Trump snub, because this is an event that for decades has been bipartisan. And this is the governors of both Republican and Democrats to get together and try to solve the problems of the country and everything along those lines. But because Trump has snubbed quite a few of them, it looks like all the Democrats are saying, like, we're just not going to show up because you're acting crazy and everything like that. So what's your take on that?
Well, I mean, it's part of the paralysis. The only things that get done in the country are what Trump wants to get done, and not even all of that stuff, because Trump, throws a bunch of stuff at the wall. Some stuff isn't logistically possible. Some stuff is just him bullshitting. Some stuff gets shot down by the courts. But the stuff that does get done is the stuff Trump wants.
Yeah, it's the stuff he wants to get done and everything like that. So the FBI has apparently released the images of a masked man in the hunt for Savannah Guthrie's mother. So that's the other story that's still going on big that I guess
Yeah,
has some.
today they had the ring cam footage of a creepy guy in a ski mask on the porch, and you have to repeatedly, I think, casing the house, and you have to think that's your kidnapper. So you can't see his face, but you can see his tennis shoes. I assume they can estimate his height and weight based on the footage. Is this going to help? I don't know. Is it going to ring a bell with any of the viewers out there who think, hey, that might be, my cousin acting strange? I don't know.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that plays out and everything like that, because definitely that's something that folks will be paying attention to and seeing what folks' thoughts are around that and everything like that. I mentioned earlier, Sasha, this notion of climate change. And apparently, there being some issues around the Siberia where there's like a growing crater, and they've already got their other issues as well. So, is this going to be even more of a problem for Putin? The climate change that is taking place in his country and everything like that? Because that is something that I saw earlier on another news story that I was watching. Apparently, there's a growing crater in Siberia. Not that anybody actually wants to live in Siberia, because that's also one of the coldest places in the world and everything like that. So, how is climate change going to impact Putin's possible future and all along those lines?
Mark, there will be no impact whatsoever. The climate change, this is for some people who have nothing better to do. So they will discuss climate change, weather change, and so on. It's nice, kind of after dinner before the liquor. Uh, there's nothing better to do for a lot of people than to discuss this. And, some people enjoy this type of discussions. Um, in reality, there are so many problems in the world that I don't understand people who are about climate change. In my opinion, they're all total losers.
Yeah. Rick, what are you seeing in the news politically and everything like that? Is it world politics, or what are you seeing? Is it of interest?
I'm just looking at the Olympics a little bit. The U.S. is, I don't know, probably in seventh place right now. We never win the Winter Olympics. I don't
No.
think we've ever won. We usually end up, in the I don't know, fifth place is maybe the best we do.
Yeah.
People used to care more about the Olympics the same way they cared more about the Oscars and the Emmys when there was less stuff to see out there. And, you know,
Well, speaking of the Olympics and world politics, I did read an article where a number of Olympians are letting their hatred of Trump out there when they're having their press conferences. I believe there was a player that is on one of the teams. I'm trying to remember which sport he's doing, but he used to run for the USA, and now he's running for Great Britain. And he actually urinated, fuck ice, and yeah, I did use that word, and everything on the whole notion of what he was doing and everything along those lines. And there was a pansexual, the woman that was competing, and definitely was talking about how they are very much an LGBTQI activist, and did feel that Trump was actually doing all that great in those departments as well. So a number of these.
Yeah, some people have spoken out, and
Right.
there's been a lot of discussion on X among, X is where the world's loudest lunatics argue. And a lot of people are saying if you're going to criticize the US, you shouldn't be allowed to compete for the US.
Right.
But if you look at these same people who had criticisms of some of the things going on in the US, the 7-member, US figure skating team, men and women, took gold. They're all standing on the podium, and they played the national anthem, and they all had their hands on their hearts, and at least 3 of them were crying. They all love the U.S. You can love the U.S. and still want the U.S. to do better. And protesting at the Olympics is, it's got a long tradition, starting in at least 1968, when 2 U.S. track and field athletes, you know what they did? They did the Black Power salute on the awards podium.
It goes even earlier than that. Let's not forget that during the era of fascism and the era of Hitler, Jesse Owens was one of the great runners.
Right.
And he was definitely protesting, and that was definitely before the 1968 thing was
1930s. You're saying that was the 1936 Berlin Olympics,
right.
And Jesse Owens and the rest of the U.S. team came to Germany, and they stuck it to Hitler's, perfect blonde Aryan specimens.
Right.
You shouldn't forget about one thing. There is a great distinction between Summer Olympics and Winter Olympics. The reason that U.S. never wins and never will win Winter Olympics is very simple, because brown and black people are not participating in winter sports. It's just as simple as that. And without the top athletes, there is no way they can win the Olympics. It's not going to happen, never. Look at the countries who are doing so well in the Winter Olympics. It's Norway, now it's Switzerland, it's Italy, it's, even Canada, although Canada, I wouldn't put in the same category, but maybe I see Canada normally takes a lot of gold in curling. It's not going to happen this year. The Olympic hockey teams, maybe men's will do something. Women's will. It was today taken apart by U.S., by the way. So this is done deal. So Canada is not going to look very great in this Olympics, unfortunately. But listen, that's not the end of the story. But the powers, European countries, especially Nordic countries, where people from the 5 years they're already on the skiers and on all kind of sports. What are you talking about? How America can compete with them?
They're already doing
that. I ran a quiz on X saying, who would you rather hook up with, a Winter Olympic athlete or a Summer Olympic athlete? And Summer won by about 2-1. I offered a third choice, that social media has destroyed any sexual desire I have, and I just rather stay in my basement. That didn't get that many votes.
That didn't get that many votes and everything along those lines. Actually, the curling team, and there is a curling team here in Durham, North Carolina is doing well. I think the mixed curling team will be going for at least a silver medal because they just won one of their competitions in the semis, if I remember correctly, and everything like that. So they will be medaling. So there are some sports that are surprising folks. I don't know how the African-American speed skater has done. I know she lost her first race, which was the 10,000, but she wasn't favored in that race. I think she's favored in the 5,000, which is taking place this weekend and everything like that. So there are some folks that are competing, including the Jamaican
Yeah.
that are in the black and
sure. There are some great individual athletes. That's for sure. What I'm talking about, the team will never make it.
Yeah,
There are
that's
too many.
One thing that comes up during the Olympics that I always notice because I'm like that is how many condoms they distribute at the Summer Olympics, because you've got young people, great bodies, full of, youthfulness. In Paris, they gave out 200,000 condoms. 200,000 male condoms, 20,000 female condoms, and 10,000 dental dams. In the Winter Olympics, I think fewer people participate. In 2018, they gave out 110,000 condoms.
Yep, so they'll be getting busy as well. So, Toby, what's on your mind politically and just in general? I see you're traveling around. We were talking about Epstein. We did the Epstein special. It'll be I think Kim said, a 3 or 4 week special and all along those lines. So she'll be doing that every Tuesday at 4 o'clock. So we got at least 3 more episodes, and she's also printed on our Amazon store. At least the first book, and the second book may be coming out shortly as well. So I got to make sure that I got all the books up there on that Amazon store. But what you got on your mind, Jatovi?
I think the mixed curling team, the U.S. got silver, the Swiss got gold.
So
it was a brother-sister team. That happened actually around about 1 something this afternoon. It was a good match too. But yeah, the Swiss team ended up winning out. They had the last stone and ended up knocking out the U.S. So
it's Hammer, so-called Hammer, the last stone.
Oh yeah. That's right.
The Hummer is what it's called, the last stone and everything like that. So, and like you said, Canada apparently lost, so we'll see what they do. Maybe they'll get a silver in USA women's hockey as well. So we'll see how that goes. I'm not sure how far they are into the competition and everything like that. So how much have you been following the Winter Olympics? I said I was going to follow it, but I haven't been following as much as I was planning to, even though I have been catching some of it. So Toby, how much have you been following these games?
I mean, I haven't followed it a whole bunch. I mean, I'll pop in and out. Like was watching curling today, watching some of the downhill the other day. I ended up going back to see what happened with Lindsey Vonn, and yeah, that was a terrible thing. But watched some others. I like the speed skating. I saw the Italy won the speed skating. They dominated it actually. But yeah, I mean, I'll pop in and out. I haven't really gotten it full into it yet. Hockey's still on pool play, so that'll happen a little bit later in terms of when it gets to the bracket play.
I just found Olympic condoms on eBay. This is for $100. You can buy a souvenir condom from the 2024 Paris Olympics. Comes in a little blue envelope that has a bird with a megaphone. I guess that was the symbol of Paris. It says, "Score a win. Yes to consent. No to STDs." So,
I'm assuming that this is not a used one because nobody wants a used condom.
No, it's still in the wrapper. So
that's a good thing because we can't be having that.
Somebody might want that. If you could, just buy. If you could have a kid that has half Olympics genes, yeah, that's why. In the NBA, they always say, when the rookies are told in their orientation from the veterans, never leave your condom in a hotel room because somebody can grab what's in it and hit you with a paternity suit.
Yeah,
well, actually, used condoms represent a great value because they were already tried, and it means they're of very high quality. So I think, and they're probably less expensive than the new ones. So maybe some people will go. Maybe you can sell them on eBay.
Yeah, nobody's gonna buy no used condom. That's like buying a used sex toy. Nobody buying a used sex toy.
And they don't know about that and all and everything. By the
Oh,
way,
ICE could go into that business, though. Apparently, people are throwing sex toys at ICE.
they're throwing sex
Well,
toys.
they're actually putting out ICE commercials now.
I did see that.
I saw that. Yeah, the ICE commercial was creepy, but they're trying to change the view of them. Instead of seeing ICE officers throwing down people, cutting seatbelts off of people, kidnapping kids, and all the other stuff.
Was
Yeah,
it just me?
And you
or
heard
did
about the one in
Yes,
you heard about in Chicago where that really wasn't even a raid. That was they weren't actually going after undocumented immigrants.
Speaking of that, and
They're
things
actually
that
going
are
after
creepy,
somebody else.
speaking of things that are creepy, was it just me, or did you find the Trump account commercial creepy as well? Because it was showing all these kids that were supposedly happy that they were going to have a Trump account and all along those lines. But yeah, I found that somewhat creepy because they did try to put a variety of people, even the black and brown people, in that commercial and everything like that. So was it just me, or did the three of you find that creepy as well?
I haven't seen that commercial. I've seen part of the ICE commercial, and their pitch in the ICE commercial is that we're just regular guys. We're dads. We're brothers. We're just regular guys with a hard job to do, and don't be mean to us.
Well, speaking of being mean and everything like that, what is our take on the federal probe of the 2020 Georgia ballots? Because apparently Trump has given his referral of the White House as to them needed to be a probe of the 2020 Georgia ballots, and we know that
The U.S. presidential election in Georgia in 2020 is the most investigated election probably in U.S. history. They've counted the votes 3 times. They've looked at all the videos. They've taken it to court dozens of times. In each case, they've found no evidence that there was any hanky-panky. Rudy Giuliani, for claiming that there was, is liable for $80 million, I believe, for libeling, slandering, whatever, to election workers and making their lives hell. There was no fraud. Trump lost legitimately.
It's just another way.
There was an attempt on fraud performed by Trump himself when he phoned asking for 10,800 votes that he was short of. That was
it's crazy, but typically Trump that he won't give up this. He was the least popular president in U.S. history who was in charge of 2020, the worst year in U.S. history since the Great Depression. Of course, a lot of people would vote for the other guy.
Yep,
he is trying to set up a way to steal the next election, though. That's all this is. I mean, yeah, he's ticked off and trying to relitigate the past, but even more so, he's setting up for what is going to happen at the end of this year, what's going to happen in 2028. It's just another way to prepare to steal the next election, because you only, if it's not rigged, it's not rigged unless you win.
Well, Steve Bannon already
unless you lose,
explained how it will be done. This ICE people, they will block the voting booth, so people will not be able to vote for Democrats. That's what's going to happen. So they will. What they can do is they can apply to court system or so on. So it will take 2 to 3 years to get anywhere.
Hey, Sasha, are we going to have another Cuban crisis and all those lines? Hold on a second. It sounds like, and this might be tying into what we're talking about, because it sounds like Cuba is grinding to a halt under the U.S. oil blockade. So we're going to have another Cuban crisis?
Well, before we even get to that Cuban crisis, what Sasha was saying is what they were testifying about today in front of Congress, because they had the director of ICE in front of Congress today, and they legitimately asked him about the people being at the voting booths or at the voting places. Mm-hmm. And his comment was that we haven't talked about that yet, or haven't talked about that. So it was a way to, kind of steer clear of trying to being trapped in perjury of saying, well, he lied in front of Congress, because as Sasha pointed out, yes, that's going to happen. They've already discussed it. But the director of ICE says, hey, well, we haven't discussed that happening yet.
I'm surprised nobody asked that director of his comments about Steve Bannon idea, what he thinks about it, at least, or he will say that I never heard about it. Everyone heard about it, loud and clear.
And it was funny when you watched it, when they even asked him about Preddy and Good.
A very interesting hearing was today. Also, this Howard Lutnick. About his
what they kept saying, it's an ongoing investigation. I can't say anything. It's an ongoing. So it's like yeah.
Well,
and
that was
I
very
want to go back to the Olympics with more sex stuff. So I've been reading these articles. In 2020, they had sex preventing beds in the Olympic Village, made of cardboard, I guess, that would collapse if you tried to have sex on them, because they didn't want people to hook up during COVID.
Well, speaking of COVID and everything like that.
One more thing. The athletes have been cautioned against making out with randos because they could fail a doping test.
Right.
But in 2009, a tennis player they found cocaine in his system, and he proved that it was because he made out with a rando who had cocaine in her mouth, I guess. But if you test positive for something because of sexual contact, you have to find the person you had contact with to prove that you got contaminated by hooking up.
Hey, Rick,
well, I think there are more sophisticated methods to get hooked up with somebody. You can do it so it's on internet. You can do it through personal contacts. I think there are a lot of pimps and prostitutes available, and so it should not be a problem to easy get sex. Let's say I want to have sex in 25 minutes. You will get a girl in 25 minutes.
Well, speaking of that, Sasha and Rick, apparently, because I don't know if you're familiar with the book Herod Experiment. I used to have a copy a long time ago and everything like that. But apparently, there is a new attempt to do that, because there is a Sanford experiment. I'm thinking it's not funded by the government, to pair 5,000 singles that is taken over the campus there in California. So they're going to actually pair 5,000 folks and do an experiment and all along those lines. So this sounds like the Herod Experiment relived, and this is going on now. So this is a new experiment that they're doing.
I'm looking it up. I'm looking it up.
This is reported in the Wall Street Journal.
Okay. Well, here it is. A Stanford experiment to pair 5,000 singles has taken over campus.
Yeah.
A student built a matchmaking algorithm that has consumed the school and highlighted the challenges of finding love for high achievers. And then I'd have to pay to read the rest of the article.
Of course you do. But yeah, it sounds like they're going to use the algorithm AI method to pair these singles together and everything like that. I mean, I think that even some of the agencies like eHarmony and others have done that in the past and everything like that. So I guess they're going to see whether this algorithm.
So I assume Stanford has a lot of sexual haves and have-nots. Right. You got a lot of kids who are high achievers on the spectrum, socially awkward, spent their high school years working their asses off, not getting laid, not having a boyfriend or a girlfriend. And then you have the high social achievers in addition to, the cool kids. And, I'm sure it's like on every campus, except maybe more extreme.
Yeah, hold on a second. I got to come back to our more political stuff. Sasha and everything like that, and I want to hear your thoughts around this, because I know that your show tomorrow is about investments, and a lot of the investments have been in NVIDIA, but also around things that have to do with EVs and other foreign-made products. I think even Jacoby's talked about the EVs that are from other countries. But now the U.S. is proposing boosting Buy America requirement for government-funded EV charging stations. So aren't most of these charging stations from other parts of the country, or how are we going to get the government-funded Made in America EV stations and everything along those lines? But I'm thinking most of the EVs are from overseas, but I could be wrong, and it won't be the first time. But what is your thoughts around this notion? Because they're proposing boosting this Buy America requirement for
I thought that Tesla is building a lot of stations, charging stations around American highways and elsewhere. So I don't know if they're going to change their mind, they're not building them anymore. And if they do, then actually sales of electric vehicles in the United States is going down, not up. So I'm not so sure if investing in an electric station is a great idea. Probably not. Let's Tesla do it. They produce nothing but electric cars. They don't produce gasoline cars, only electric. So if there are no charging stations, their cars are good for nothing. You may just leave it on the highway and just walk. So you need charging stations for your customers. So build them. What's the problem?
Yeah, and
All right,
think
so,
Yeah, Tesla
Rob,
was
leading-
supposed to have the contract with the U.S. to build the infrastructure, the EV infrastructure out, because that's the issue, is that the infrastructure is not there. And then on top of that, another issue is that when Trump came into office, he pulled the tax credits for EV vehicles. So a lot of the U.S. makers started cutting back on EV vehicles because that was a big sales push, is that you could get an EV the same price as you get, same price or lower than actual gas vehicles. So when they cut that out, it slowed vehicle sales quickly. And then on top of that, the animosity that's built up across the globe to the U.S. based off of the U.S. EV makers, like Tesla. That's why BYD is dominating right now. And evidently, BYD now has a contract with Canada and is able to sell in Canada now.
49,000 cars are coming to Canada. 49,000.
And the crazy part about it, when BYD hits Canada, because it's already the #1 EV maker across the globe, it took over Tesla's spot. Now, if it goes into Canada, that's only going to increase its share. And that means more Chinese makers, because once Trump started, insulting the Canadian market, and now he's even pushing it further with this whole bridge. Now Canada has made partnerships with China. China has a huge market on EV cars right now. And a lot of their cars I've showed them off. A lot of technology on those cars. And they're cheaper than the American made cars. So you can get an EV, that BYD EV, that's the same thing as a Tesla Model 3, which retail price, Sasha, once it hits Canada, I don't know how much the actual exchange rate is, but according to the U.S. market, that car is roughly about $16,000, $17,000. The Model 3 is like $30,000 to $40,000. So you're already getting $15,000 off. Then on top of that, if you mass produce those, and honestly, if it works well in the Canadian market, I mean, that's going to harm everything in the U.S. because Ford is going to be struggling because they're going to have to jump in it. Tesla's then going to tank even more. That's why they're pushing more into robotics. So yeah, that EV market is going to be interesting over the next few years.
Well, if China will start producing these cars and others in Canada, then all the other industry will be decimated. There will be no more car produced in Canada, whether Ford or GM or just anything. They will start producing high quality Chinese cars, including mostly electric cars. So I don't know, it's all Trump's making. It's all his.
Speaking of his making and everything, apparently, and coming back to ICE, they are cracking down on people who follow them on their cars and everything. So, I mean, one of the things that they've been trying to do, some of the protesters, is make sure to keep ICE in check and everything like that. So I guess they're going to circle back around and check on the people that are checking on them and everything like that. So what is your thoughts around that, Rick, or anybody else that wants to get to this? But this is a article that was reported in Reuters recently that they're cracking down on people who are tracking them.
Say again that Sorry, I
Like
was.
they're cracking down on the people who have been following them to make sure that they're not abusing their power.
But ICE is cracking down on the people. Well, I mean, you're allowed to. Uh, you're allowed to observe ICE.
Exactly.
You're not allowed to dox them. You're not allowed to say this is, Jeffrey Clevenger who lives at, 1423, whatever. But you can definitely, they can hassle the shit out of you, and it may not be legal for them to do that, but who's going to stop them? But, in Minneapolis, they are at the cost of 2 lives and probably a bunch of people roughed up. They're learning, what you can do and not do about ICE.
What is our thoughts around this is again off ICE, but it's some more Trump craziness and all along those lines. But apparently, just like they moved some of the Confederate statues and they moved some of the other things from iconic African American sites and all along those lines, apparently earlier today, it looks like it was probably even like within the last hour, the Fed has removed pride flags from Stonewall, which is the iconic site of the LGBTQ plus movement and everything, because that's pretty much where the movement started and everything.
The Feds have removed a plaque from the Stonewall bar.
Mhm.
How can they do that? Well, I'll look it up and see. It seems like that should be private property, right? And in the middle of New York City.
Right. But
It's par for the course.
You said it's par for the course?
Yeah, it's par for the course.
Yeah, they're doing a lot of this par for the course stuff where they just kind of
Mark, just to get back to your Cuban Missile Crisis stuff that you brought up earlier, an interesting thing is Fareed Zakaria over the weekend did actually a great piece. I don't know if you want to bring that up, but and it's still on the missile crisis, but it's in a different way because the final nuclear treaty is going to be gone this year. It ends.
It's already gone. It's gone by February.
I thought it ended
February.
Oh
5th.
yeah,
Done.
that's right. It was the 5th.
No more treaties.
So the scary part about that is now this whole nuclear arms race is going to be a reality because a lot of the reasons why, and this is what Fareed Zakaria brought up, which is very true. A lot of the reasons why that treaty worked and a lot of the other countries didn't start producing nuclear weapons is due to the fact of the promises the U.S. made to help protect these other smaller countries. Yeah. Now that's in question. Now these countries may start creating nuclear arsenals. So you're going to have smaller state actors creating a nuclear arsenal to protect themselves against whomever may attack them. So that doomsday clock that moved up a few seconds might have been because of that.
Yeah. Look at Ukraine. Ukraine had its nuclear weapons. It was negotiated that they will give it to Russia in exchange for the territorial, territorial solid borders that would be guaranteed by US, UK, and Russia. And look at what's happened there. They gave all their nuclear stuff to Russia and more. Not only that, they had the nuclear bombardment planes, and they gave it all to finish it. And now they were invaded fully. But first of all, it was in 2014, Russia started partial invasion of Ukraine and got Crimea and Donbas territories, and now it's a full-scale invasion. And what I discussed today on the Ukrainian show is the so-called Dmitriev initiative, whereas if US would be able to deliver Ukrainian surrender to Russia, Russia provides US, rather Trump, let's put it the right way, $12 trillion worth of natural resources and all other stuff. I did a little bit of homework, which I apply today on this Ukrainian show. What is $12 trillion? How to comprehend what it is? How large is the figure? Okay, let me tell you something. When Germany lost First World War, so France was very vindictive because France lost a lot of people in that war. So they put contribution and reparation on Germany, which was at the time 132 million Deutschmarks. What is that? It's apparently 8,800 golden Deutschmarks. So each household was responsible for these payments. Total of these payments would be 47,300 pounds, and it was equal at the time which if you translate it into today's dollars, it's $3 trillion. So Russians offering this fool by the name Trump 4 times amount that Germany had to pay in reparation to France and other powers. So how does it work? Anybody understand?
I have one more number. Russia's annual GDP is only 2.5 trillion. So Russia is offering its entire economic output for 5 years, which you can't do. That's just bullshit.
But they know they're dealing with a greedy and stupid guy. That's how they work with him. So all this, you see, the situation is very convoluted because so you can measure independence and sovereignty of a country actually in dollars. So you say, okay, Ukraine, okay, give us your resignation, capitulation, and you know what? We're getting out of it to $12 trillion. We'll give you 1 or 2 trillion, so you will be happy boys and don't worry about anything, or so on. Is that how it works? I never heard about
Can we go back to Stonewall for a sec? So Stonewall is a bar in New York City that has a little park in front of it that had an LGBTQ flag in front of it, but Trump has pulled the flag down. Stonewall celebrates. It used to be illegal for gay people to gather together in bars. The cops would come in, arrest people, beat them up. You know, you had to really sneak around. But in 1969, the cops raided the Stonewall bar, and hundreds of gay people said they'd had enough, and they started pelting the cops. They rioted, and they got so unruly that the cops had to take shelter in the bar, and there were 3 nights of riots, which marked the beginning of gay people standing up for their rights to do the same shit that everybody else does.
Yeah. And there were those protests during that time. I think that was around the same time as the Allen Building takeover, which was around trying to get some rights for Black students at Duke University and all along those lines. So yeah, there was a lot of protests in the 60s and 70s to try to get the various rights. I think the Allen Building was actually the administration building, if I remember correctly, and everything like that.
So people started being pissed off about the Vietnam War, because being sent to Vietnam, you could get drafted and get killed. 50,000 Americans got killed in battle in Vietnam. And so those protests started in the late 60s. And then a lot of people started noticing shit that they were pissed off about. Gay people and women in the anti-war movement had enough of being treated like shit by the men in the anti-war movement. And that started a whole wave of feminism.
That's how the feminist movement got started. I'm not sure what Lindsey Vohn's attitude is on the feminism. Like I said earlier, a lot of the Olympic athletes were bringing up their attitudes around gay rights and uh, what they think of Trump and a number of other things like that. But I did see a great quote from her. I'd love to hear your thoughts around this because that was a horrible crash that she had. But she said, knowing I stood there having a chance to win was a victory in and of itself. I always knew the race was a risk. It always was and always will be an incredibly dangerous sport. And then she had a message for her folks. She said, sometimes when we don't achieve the dreams we know we could have, but that is also the beauty of life. We can try. I tried, I dreamt, I jumped. And then she gave a reflection and an encouragement to her followers. She said, I hope if you take away anything from my journey is that you all have the courage to dare greatly. Life is too short not to take chances on yourself because the only failure in life is not trying. I believe in you just as you believed in me and everything like that. So what are your thoughts around her words of encouragement? Because a lot of times people are not willing to dare greatly.
I like that. She's 41 years old. Her legs have been reconstructed, and she decided she'd had enough of not racing. She had to come back and do it, and she was racing on her ACL. I think was gone. She lost it a couple weeks ago in a training run, and so all right. I just hope that that. When she crashes, I hope her head doesn't get knocked around. I hope that, she doesn't get CTE the way NFL players get. I'm okay if she's in a wheelchair later, but it would suck if her brain gets scrambled.
But you know what? I saw one video on YouTube about one American wave runner, and what's happened is that the shark has bitten her whole arm. Wow. So she has no arm whatsoever. Nothing was.
Bethany Hamilton.
What do you think she was doing farther than she was doing exactly the same thing with one arm, but she was continuing to do exactly the same thing. Sometimes you cannot help people. There are some people who were maimed in climbing Everest, and they fell and they had to be reconstructed almost like a new person. And what they were doing next, they were climbing Everest again. So there's nothing you can do about that.
I think I mentioned last week that I watched a documentary about a young lady that had lost her arm and a lot of her limbs to a train wreck. And she had gone and climbed Mount Everest and climbed a lot of other mountains as well. So that's one thing that she does on a regular basis. So she's
what Lindsey Vonn could, if her leg is sufficiently destroyed, she could end up competing in the Paralympics.
Well, that's true. She could do the Paralympics, and there's a lot of folks that are doing great in that. We're going to get out of here shortly. I don't know what things should we be looking for you on your investment show coming up on tomorrow.
I wanted to ask you about something, Mark. I was under impression that you will start a new investment show with Milan.
Milan has not been in touch with me. If Milan gets in touch with me, or I can reach out to Milan, because I was actually thinking about that earlier and everything, because I have not heard from Milan. But if he wants an investment show, just like Peter's got his own show and everything, and he was a person that used to be on your show as well. But I'll reach out to Milan.
Maybe change his mind. Okay.
He never reached out to me, but I'll reach out to him and see if he wants to do the show, because he did say he wanted to do it, and I know he's not been on Modern Investment, but I'll reach out to him and see if he wants to do it.
Mark, I because the last week was so heavy on the stock market, and there were incredible losses, and I thought about, well, maybe this week I will invite Milan Somberg to have his opinion just for fun, and I phoned him. And first of all, I asked him that I couldn't find his new show anywhere. So whether he's doing that new show or not. You know what he told me? He told me that, what? A new show? I never talk about new show. I have no slightest idea. And I said, wait a moment. I heard it not only from you, I heard it also from Mark. He said,
you brought the idea up, and I said that he could have the show.
That's what you told me. So he said, Mark? Never heard anything about Mark, and I never told you or anybody about the new show. It's the first time. But you know what? He's an older man, and sometimes things are not working as normal. So okay, I just left it. He told me that he's going to call me later on, but listen.
Yeah, if he wants to do a show, because I'm always open to new shows. We actually just started a couple of new shows. We got the Epstein Files. Actually, I've got a new show that you'll be interested in. It's called The Classics Explained or something along those lines. I've actually got to decide when I'm going to air it, but the first episode, and it'll probably only be a monthly show. But Maestro William Curry is a maestro from here. There's another gentleman that's a maestro from Seattle, and they're going to be looking at the various classical music and everything.
Oh
like
yeah,
that.
I would be interested in that. No problem.
Yeah.
By the way, I wanted to ask you. Yesterday, no, was it? Yeah, yesterday. For the first time ever, I saw the how do they call it? The timeshare.
Yeah, the timeshare show.
Mark, listen. I've never seen anything more depressing than this show.
Apparently, it's one of our better shows in terms of ratings, like I said. But that's Kim and Nick's show. I don't really produce that show, and of course, the lady that does it is Irene, that has been on a couple of our news shows. But that is not a direct show that I do, and everything like that. That is definitely.
No, it's nothing to do with you. I just saw the show for the first time for myself. I just wanted to test it, what it is like. Oh, horrible! I'm not criticizing Irene or Kim or anybody else. The whole theme, all these losers who are coming to the show, it's bizarre. It's horrible. It's not healthy. It's like, maybe why don't you invent a show for, let's see, for amputees? So the amputees will come on a show and they will explain how they lost their limbs and so on. So that would not be so depressing because this shit happens and people can get it.
Yeah, like I said, I've got some ideas for some other shows.
It's their own stupidity, the sheer stupidity, and they're saying and what they're about to do. One guy was crying. And oh my God, it's horrible, terrible. I will never see it again for myself. And I don't know what's their future. There's nothing.
Who knows? But on that note, we're going to get out of here. I'm down to the 30-second clock and everything like that because I got to get to the show about history that Mama Noni does and everything like that. And I think that Nick is going to do the show with Peter Bennett, if I remember correctly. Because I think that's on Tuesday as well, the Wall Street Hackers. I'm sure they'll have some political and financial advice that they'll be talking about as well. And of course, that airs here on Pod TV. I do have some ideas for some shows, including some that you would be interested in, because I would love to see a show around backgammon, because I did hear you mention that you used to play that game and everything like that. And I'd love to hear a show around cooking and a show. I used to have a show around pet care, and I might bring that back. And of course, I'm still trying to find some creative shows because I know that you like to talk. I like to talk, but I would like us to see some other things that are more dramatic and more like about the novels. Right now we have Evan that does a recreation of some of the great authors and everything like that. So I hope that at some point this network will also have some creative thing. Nothing wrong with talking heads, and there's a lot of networks that are talking heads, but I know that you like to do things other than talking heads as well. You like to watch sports, you like to watch movies and stuff like that. So I'm hoping that we'll get some shows that have some creative aspect. And on that note, we'll get out of here with the 30-second countdown. So fun talking to you, and I'll see you all tomorrow.
Thank you. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Bye.